up, rise and shine. It's a brand new day with Mona News. It's time to have your say. She's got the scoop, the stories, all the latest trends. Mo's got the news, let's hear it. My dear friends, from politics to showbiz, no story's too small. Mo covers it all. She's got the inside call, her voice so smooth, like honey in the summer sun. With Mo on the mic, you know the news is always fun. Mornings with Mo, the best newsy news in the world. With her style so classic and her stories unfurled, from morning till night, she's got us in the know. Turn on your radio, let Mo's newsy news flow.
Good morning, everyone. It is the 1st of November. I hope that everyone has turkeys or what have you. I am exhausted, uh, you know, but the kiddos, the boys had a great Halloween, and oldest daughter decided to pitch in last night to give out candy because I was stuck in bed. So that is great. Thank you, Wolfram, for doing the Modly Mod stuff. Welcome, Just Teresa. And Colorado Mountain Girl, welcome. Kiki K, welcome. Roland Arthur. And Coffee Nut, good morning. So, as promised in the teaser on the Twit Twats, we have Steven Seagal in the news. Now, why this could have happened on Halloween, I don't know. But we have Steven Seagal and he is in the news because, well, who knows what the hell this man has been doing other than keeping the entire company of Just for Men in business. Sir, your goatee is not that dark. You have grays. Now stop. Action star Steven Seagal appears to have gained a ton of weight in the latest Russian propaganda appearance. Now, I don't know so much about Russian propaganda, but it is Steven Seagal, so I just figured I'd give you the Steven Seagalness of it all. Seagal 72 has distinctly ballooned in his belly area in a newly released Russian propaganda film called "In the Name of Justice." Yeah, sir, those camo pants aren't going to hide you from anything. Oh Lord, this man is so ridiculous. Go back to being a pretend deputy. And you can afford a better wig. I mean, who does this? Also, who dresses like he's in Kung Fu? Kung Fu Panda. I'm not gonna get into all the Russian propaganda stuff, but dear Lord, Steven Seagal, please stop. Please stop now. In sadder news, and probably something that you guys have heard all about, at least on the Twit Twats and such, there was a mass event in Orlando on Halloween, and it looks like it was a Halloween celebration that was unfortunately, marked by violence. Orlando mass event leaves 2 dead and 6 wounded during Halloween celebrations, and a teen suspect has been arrested. No, but his hairstyle is. At least 2 people were unfortunately killed in a mass shooting in downtown Orlando, Florida, which was hosting a Halloween celebration Friday morning. Gunfire erupted outside the block, a nightlife area consisting of 7 separate clubs, as hundreds of revelers were in attendance, many dressed for cash prize, costume contests. The police received reports of shots being fired around 1:07 a.m. at Central Boulevard and Orange Avenue, Orlando Police Chief Eric Smith said during a press conference. A second shooting was reported at Washington Street and Orange Avenue, a block north, within minutes. Six others were wounded and rushed to local hospitals in stable condition. The victims' ages range from 19 to 31. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I guess 19, I probably wouldn't have told my parents. Good morning, toxic orchard. Orchid, not, I'm sorry. It's a Friday. I'm having to wrangle 2 children to go to the dentist because me and my eternal awesome mom, powers, I made a dental appointment for the day after Halloween. I think I set myself up for failure. Cops pounced on the shooter, identified as 17-year-old Jalen Dwayne Edgar after he opened fire on the crowd the second time, immobilizing and arresting him. Edgar was arrested for grand theft in 2023. People did not see Edgar enter any of the clubs when he arrived in downtown Orlando, and he is believed to have been the sole suspect. He was armed with a force multiplier. Now, I have some questions because it looks like there's some young, or at least some younger kids out here, or shorter people. But I mean, these kids look like they're youngish. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I wasn't a big, going out person as a teen, so my mom and I never had to deal with this. Now, during a press conference, Smith showed multiple videos from the downtown nightlife at the moment of the shooting. In one video, Edgar, who was walking with a group, pulled out his force multiplier and fired point blank at an unsuspecting victim, sending the packed avenue into a frenzy. Footage from the second shooting captured the moment Edgar again fired into the packed crowd near a police cruiser. One officer nearby saw the teen gunman, swept his legs from underneath him, and tackled him to the ground before other cops jumped into the pile. They're always trained and they're always ready to react, Smith said. As soon as they heard the shots fired, none of the officers went the other way. They didn't go with the crowd. Most of them got a little cover between them and started scanning to see what was going on. Then they moved. They took action to keep everyone safe. And that's what these officers do. And I'm very proud of them, he added. Smith estimated between 50,000 and 100,000 people attended the Halloween celebrations. So this is the chief of police. And I mean, for good or for ill, thank goodness these police officers, went in and stopped this. With the amount of people that were there, had he decided to just escalate this into a bigger random attack, I mean, thank goodness the police were there. They swept his legs out. They, jumped on top of him and they took care of the threat. As you can see from this video, Halloween is one of our busiest nights of the years. Always is, Smith said. Halloween night itself is busy, and the Saturday after Halloween is just as busy. Police have yet to release the motive behind the shooting. Officials believe Edgar was determined to commit a mass event as he walked past several officers through the crowd. Whatever his mindset was, he was going to shoot no matter what, Smith revealed. He walked by multiple officers. We followed where he came. He knew what he was going to do. He thought through his mind what he was going to do. It's unfortunate some people see somebody they don't like or somebody they have some sort of beef with, and they take whatever action they're going to take, he added. State Attorney Andrew Bain said there were several aggravating factors leading to Edgar being charged as an adult. Obviously, from the multiple victims and the brazen nature of the crime, there are several aggravating factors that fit inside the matrix to charge him as an adult. So I totally agree with charging him as an adult. He made an adult decision and he cost 2 people their lives and 6 people their, safety, not to mention countless of thousands of people, their safety, because these can cause trample events. They can cause, all sorts of chaos. So I'm glad they found him and he deserves to be charged as an adult. In a lighter set of news, as a mom of a NICU baby, these are super cute. They do these every year. It's about as close to having, like awe emotions that I will ever have. But 8 NICU babies in their handmade Halloween costumes. And I will say, if, you know, Having a baby in the NICU is one of the hardest things. You can't take them home. You have to leave them in the hospital. You have to go home and, trust that the nurses who are always awesome. I had no issues, but it is hard leaving this precious tiny little baby covered in machines when you have to go home. They may be too little to trick or treat, but these NICU babies are celebrating Halloween in style. Every year, the Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit NICU staff organizes a Halloween costume event for the babies on the ward. Spending the holidays in the hospital can be challenging for parents and children alike, so the NICU nurses make sure to conjure up some extra magic for Halloween. So we have a little lion, look at, and a little Stitch. Oh, I'm in love, and a little Ariel. Oh, I love it. I love that, the nurses took the time, a little Hamilton, how cute, a little Dumbo. I just Oh, that's so sweet. Flounder. Oh, my ovaries are exploding. I'm like, "We could have a 7th." Mr. Mo is frantically texting me like, "Woman, keep your voodoo and baby desires to yourself." Now they're handmade by one of the nurse's mother, so all of these are either it looks like they're knitted. The Henry Ford Hospital NICU has always planned an annual Halloween event since 2016, but the costumes aren't always quite this elaborate. In 2018, nurse Christian Braun asked her mother, Valerie Atkinson, if she would be interested in helping with the costume. Atkinson, a lifelong crocheter, has been crafting the NICU babies' Halloween costumes ever since. It's a really special thing for me, Atkinson said. Every year, the NICU team brainstorms themes for the babies' Halloween costumes. This year's theme was Disney, and the costumes included Ariel from The Little Mermaid, Stitch from Lilo and Stitch, Simba from The Lion King, and plenty other beloved characters. All the NICU nurses pitch in to get the costume Halloween costume extravaganza a success. Good thing. I love that, I can speak English at some point, some days. All of the NICU everyone donated their time, Braun said. People will come in on their day off or stay after, so everything looks perfect for the baby. Atkinson starts making the tiny Halloween costumes in August, long before many of the October NICU babies were even born. She takes inspiration from Etsy patterns, then adapts the costumes to fit a range of teeny sizes. For babies with feeding tubes or breathing tube, Atkinson creates layover costumes that can be placed over the baby like a blanket to avoid disturbing medical equipment. This year, Atkinson was still crocheting costumes down to the very last seconds. Three of the NICU babies were born the night before the Halloween photo shoots. She was crocheting in the break room, Braun added. Halloween isn't the only special event at the Henry Ford Hospital NICU. On Christmas Eve, the nurses dress each baby in themed pajamas. Having a child in the NICU is immensely challenging for parents, and these holiday events are intended to bring them a sense of comfort and normalcy. A lot of times they're grieving. They might not have had the birth they wanted. Their baby isn't home with them, but they can still have a Halloween costume and they can still have Christmas pajamas, Braun said. No matter what their situation is, they all can do that. Atkinson is buoyed by the responses from grateful parents. One parent said, "Thank you for giving us a normal day where we're happy." The parents asked Atkinson to sign their daughter's baby book and even included her Halloween family photo, in there. So we needed a little bit of, levity. And I love this idea of, just a mom of a nurse, giving all of her time to make these parents feel good. Like I said, I was lucky my little girl didn't have to spend more than 2 weeks in the NICU. She was a giant preemie, but she was stubborn as hell and would continue to fail her breathing test when we put her in the car seat. I should have known. But I love the fact that they were, kind enough to do this for parents without expecting anything and just giving those parents, some sense of normal because the NICU really is not a fun place. Now, in other news, Just for all of you, Mama Mo says do not play with firecrackers, even if the Dodgers win the World Series over the Yankees, which I am gathering is somewhat unusual. Still, don't play with fire or firecrackers. A Dodger fan, 25, blows up his hands while playing with fire. I'm sorry, while celebrating with fireworks for the World Series win over the Yankees. Now, you guys know I'm not a sports ball person, so I imagine that this is a big celebration that I am just clueless about. But don't play with fireworks, for the love of God. He didn't dodge that one. A Dodger fan partially blew off his hands with a firework while celebrating the team's World Series win in Los Angeles Wednesday night, according to shocking video that made rounds online. The 25-year-old man wearing a Dodgers number 22 jersey, which is pitcher Clayton Kershaw's number, but had the name King on the back, can be seen carrying a lit firework down an LA crosswalk. The firework blows up in his hand before he can place it and walk away, covering him in smoke and spraying sparks and blood across the avenue. People scream as the man turns away from the explosion, stumbling. He gets closer to the photographer, and it becomes clear that blood covers both of his hands, with hunks of flesh and fingers missing and displaced. Yeah, no. As blood drips on the ground, a shocked celebrant looks down at his disfigured hands in utter belief. Several bystanders came to the man's aid and, called the authorities, which was very good of them. I am not showing you more pictures because I don't do blood and I don't want to pass out. The Los Angeles Fire Department said that the fan was conscious and alert, but had suffered bilateral hand wounds, which were described by officials as debilitating. The horrific freak accident occurred amidst chaotic celebrations across the city as natives reveled in the Dodgers' second World Series title in 4 years. At least a dozen people were arrested following commercial burglaries and immolation of a city bus. A mob of looters ransacked a Nike store, according to footage released by the LAPD. One pilferer wore a Halloween clown mask. LAPD also said a hostile crowd of 200 to 300 people, mostly wearing Dodger jerseys, covered a bus with graffiti and then lit it on fire about a mile from Dodger Stadium. The vandals chanted, "Go Dodgers," as the bus burned, according to a video. The Dodgers beat the Yankees 7-6 in the Bronx last night, marked by an all-time Bronx Bomber meltdown in the fifth inning, and secured the franchise's eighth World Championship. The World Series parade is scheduled to take place on Friday in downtown LA. I know I have to get some of the Halloween costume stuff because this year I did not do that last year, and I assumed that we had just a box of costumes, and I forgot to take into account that the boys grow over the year. So, definitely need to pack up and get some more Halloween kind of mix and match masks that they can use because it's generally cold and yucky here in Indiana, so you just need a mask and, a coat most of the time. In a nod to Nicholas, our favorite Swede, apparently Swedish candy is taking over the world. They are not going to invade like Vikings now. They realized the way to get us is sugar. A Swedish gummies craze is happening right now. I mean, I'm all for gummies. I don't think they're the same kind, but hey, candy, sugar, or whatever happens to be in there, I'm for it. Sometimes the lines are so long outside a shop in Brooklyn, New York, that the owners have to call a bouncer. People walk out carrying bags stuffed with loot as that they guard as if they're carrying prized possessions. Welcome to the Swedish gummy craze that has swept up the United States thanks to a hefty push from TikTok creators. It has people salivating for a confection aficionados insist is a cut above standard gummy fare. Quote, "Since everyone's obsessed with Swedish candy in New York, let's go to Bon Bon," creator Becca Michi, standing outside the pink awning of Bon Bon Swedish candy. The platform is alive with videos of people displaying their colorful Swedish candy hauls. This highly anticipated Swedish candy shop is finally opened in the West Village, creator Becca Schneider said about the little sweet treat. Leo Scholz, a co founder of the Brooklyn based Bon Bon, said he and his two business partners opened the shop because they found the options in U.S. gummies space lacking. We felt that the American standards of candy didn't live up to what we grew up with, Schultz said. Schultz and his two co founders are from Sweden, and they were allowed to indulge only one day a week when they were growing up on Saturdays. The Saturdays were holy, so we tried to relive that, he said. You get goosebumps talking about it. Like when I had special ones I used to have when I was a kid, it was incredible. I don't know about the penny problem glasses on the guy with the suit on, just the all dark. I mean, the suit and everything else, like, okay looking guy, and then you get to the DMV, penny problem glasses from HR, and I'm like, "And done, and done." Schultz and his team set out to recapture that magic and make every day a sweet Saturday. Bon Bon, which opened in 2017, now has 4 locations that stay open until midnight, as well as a booming website. Its popularity can lead to queues that wrap around the building. Sometimes the lines get too long and we kind of had to add, reinforcement. A candy bouncer, Schultz said. He's very friendly and gives out samples. He's not intimidating. He's so on brand for Bon Bon. Schultz said that TikTok might bring people to the store, but the quality of its ingredients keeps them coming back for more. Most of our candy is vegan, they're gluten free, Schultz said. And at the end of the day, it's the quality of the product that comes from Sweden, which sort of adds the air of premiumness to it. The Swedish ingredients come together to make treats such as cotton candy skulls, foamy pear ovals known as bubs, sour cola pacifiers, and black licorice, a Swedish delicacy. Schultz said they're still trying to win over skeptical Americans with that one. It tastes amazing, you just haven't had the right licorice. I'm gonna say black licorice is a no-go with me. I do not like anise. I do not like, licorice. I'm sorry. You could add salt to it. You could add chocolate to it, and then I think I'm getting a malt ball, but instead it's licorice in the middle. It's gonna take me a long time to acquire a taste for that. Whether or not black licorice becomes an American staple, people are clearly ready to test their taste buds. Over the past year, I've seen that Swedish candy is going viral, said Ellie Ross, owner and founder of Little Sweet Treat. And to me, that signaled that there was a gap in the market for people who wanted to try new sweets, new textures, and really expand their palates beyond what we have in convenience stores today. She was working at an e-commerce startup when she walked past a small multi-unit for rent in the West Village. I saw the layout and I said, "This is Little Sweet Treat," Roz said. "This is a candy shop." She documented her journey on TikTok, posting the renovation of the candy store and ordering candy stock and more, gaining 28,000 followers. She opened the shop this year and sold out of her entire stock in just a few days. Store supervisor Vizzy Victorano said visitors come from around the world to sample their candy. I've seen people that have actually flown in just to try. With business booming, Ross says she hasn't forgotten the candy obsessed girl she once was. I immigrated to the States when I was young. I grew up with Korean snacks, she said. I would share that at recess, and that camaraderie of sharing cultures through food is something I've always truly loved. Inspired by her Korean heritage and her travels, Ross sources candies not only from Sweden but all over the world. Her stock rotates weekly but can include alligator bites from Sweden, smiling pumpkins from Germany, and sour blue raspberries from Spain. She keeps a diverse inventory for loyal customers and TikTok followers, whom she calls candy connoisseurs. A candy connoisseur is anyone who's willing to try new items, willing to learn about different candies, and just take that leap of faith into trying something new. I mean, what a cool story that she, had this dream. And it really kind of strikes me because there's a little girl in my youngest, most feral's class, and she's always sharing with him. He's like, these are her country's candy. And it's always fun to see them, like, he's like, "I gave her a cheese stick because I don't think she understands what cheese sticks are." And I was like, "I think she knows what a cheese stick is. It's really nice of you to share snacks." But that just it's so very sweet, how he and this little girl, he always fights with his brothers. "He is not my girlfriend. She's a girl, and she's not weird, and she shares snacks with me, so I like her, but she's not my girlfriend." So it's always nice because he'll, come home and be like, "You have to try it's shrimps. It's shrimps, and they call it food, and they're dried shrimps, and they have" it's just hilarious. Aside from TikTok, candy experts said that there could be another reason that the gummies are having a moment now: increased chocolate prices. I think chocolate is going to remain expensive for a while, so I think it's good for the gummy candy industry, said David Branch, a commodities analyst for Wells Fargo Agri-Food Institute. It's going to take a year or two for the market to really moderate and cacao prices to come back down to their historic levels. So I think gummies are here to stay. Commodities aside, Schultz and Ross said nostalgia is a key flavor in their success. Something that I hear from our candy connoisseurs all the time is "you made me feel like a kid again," Ross said. I think people are really looking for that extra bit of joy and a way to bring a little extra happiness to something as simple as grabbing a bag of candy. Schultz said, "We're all kids at heart. Me and my co founders, we truly believe that growing up is a trap, but owning candy stores definitely helps." So the Swedes are invading and they're taking over through candy. Makes perfect sense. I mean, that's how I would do it. But I just love how, a sweet or something, it is so universal. It kind of brings us together and, makes us feel pretty good. And we just got done with Halloween. So I'm sure all of us have, so much candy around. Now, I'm going to need all Lord Chippy advocates and assistants here because we need to set this to extra slow. I thought we were done with horror because of Halloween, but this chick needs to meet Lord Chippy. I could not believe it when I read the headline, but we need to name and shame monsters. A mother monster, whichever you choose, formed an unaliving pact with a 12 or a 10-year-old daughter only to not take any of the pills and watch her overdose. Do not even get Lord Chippy, let's just trebuchet her into the sun. I don't even think Lord Chippy could deal with the disgustingness that is this woman. Also, ma'am, I generally don't shame people for their personal appearances, but I never thought I'd see Pizza the Hut outside of Spaceballs. But you did it, ma'am. You captured the essence. A Mississippi monster, I mean mother, and her 10-year-old daughter allegedly formed a unaliving pact and decided to take several pills. But only the girl followed through, police said, and it nearly cost the girl her life. Now her mother, Brittany Leigh Hensley, remains behind bars. She is charged with aggravated child abuse. The Ocean Springs Police Department responded shortly before 6:30 p.m. on July 6th for an unresponsive child call at the extended Studio 6 motel. Hensley, 37, and her daughter had been living there. When first responders arrived, they found the girl unresponsive near several unknown pill capsules and an empty prescription medicine bottle in a green backpack. The medication was prescribed to Hensley. Paramedics rushed the girl to the hospital where she was intubated and then flown to another hospital. At some point, the girl woke up and told the police that she and her mother had entered a pact, and she took a lot of pills. Quote, "She had this pact with her daughter, and her daughter took the pills, but she didn't," end quote. Ocean Springs Police Chief Ryan Lemire told the Biloxi Sun Herald. So the mama started freaking out when the daughter wouldn't wake up. The girl remains under the care and custody of Mississippi Child Protective Services, and her recovery is ongoing. Hensley was set to meet with police detectives and CPS investigators, but she fled to Alabama. Police obtained a warrant for Hensley's arrest on September. On October 15th, the Mississippi Coast Crime Stoppers announced her arrest by the Huntsville, Alabama Police Department. She has since been extradited back to the Johnson County Jail, where she remains on a $500,000 bond. It is unclear if she has a lawyer. Ma'am, how dare you? First of all, if your daughter needs help, if you are both having mental, difficulties, that is the time where you call someone and you get your daughter some help because she's obviously having these terrible, terrible dark thoughts at 10 years old, and that is an issue. You do not sit there and let your daughter take whatever the hell you were prescribed for your own issues and not do anything. What is wrong with people? I hope you never get out. I hope your daughter gets the help, gets the listening that she needs, and goes on to be a fully functional human being. Oh, people. Well, it is a big case and one that I'm sure we will be breaking down here on this channel shortly, soon as I get done with Delphi, which I just need about 15 more hours in the day to look over everyone's notes and go over everyone's streams. But let's get into the Menendez brothers. So, what is next for the Menendez brother? A look at their lives in prison and three paths to, possible freedom. Let's see. Lyle and Eric Menendez may become free men after spending decades behind bars for killing their parents. Lyle Menendez, then 21, and Eric Menendez, then 18, admitted to buying long, for basically shotguns and firing 16 rounds at Jose and Kitty Menendez inside the family's Beverly Hills home in 1989. Prosecutors alleged that they killed their wealthy parents for money, but the defense argued they acted in self defense after enduring years of SA by their father. The first trial, which had separate juries for each brother, ended in mistrials. And in 1996, after a second trial during which the judge barred much of the SA evidence, Lyle and Eric were convicted and both sentenced to 2 consecutive terms of life without parole. Neri Yuklin, an ABC News freelance reporter and executive producer of Menendez plus Menudo, Boys Betrayed, has visited Lyle Menendez multiple times at the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego. She stressed that Lyle and Eric Menendez have spent their decades in prison in rehabilitating themselves as well as helping other inmates. Lyle and his brother spent their whole adult lives trying to counsel other victims of SA and start programs in the prison, she said. Even though they had no chance of parole, they really felt that the prison system could be improved. Eric Menendez has provided hospice care to inmates, their attorney said, while for over the last 20 years, Lyle Menendez's fellow inmates have elected him as their representative with the prison administration. He's like a soft-spoken CEO who's very busy with multiple projects, she said of Lyle. He wants to talk about prison reform. He would talk to me about the college courses he was taking, and I was really impressed that someone in their early 50s in prison without any chance of parole would want to take calculus and statistics to continue to better themselves. With freedom now a possibility, Yunklin described this as an emotional, intense time for Lyle Menendez. For the first time in decades, he actually feels like there's a glimmer of hope that the two of them might get home to their families one day. Path 1, Habeas Corpus Petition. One Track to Freedom is the brothers' habeas corpus petition, which was filed last year for a review of new evidence not presented in trial. One piece of evidence is allegations from Roy Risolo, a former member of the boy band Menudo, who revealed in 2023 documentary series Menendez plus Menudo, Boys Betrayed, that he was raped by music executive Jose Menendez. The second piece of evidence is a letter Eric Menendez wrote to his cousin 8 months before the unaliving, detailing his alleged abuse. The cousin testified about the alleged abuse at trial, but the letter, which would have corroborated this cousin's testimony, wasn't unearthed until several years ago, according to the brothers' attorney, Mark Garagos. Through this petition, the court could change their convictions. The next hearing is set for November 25th. A second path is through resentencing. Resentencing, basically, the Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon announced on October 25th that he was recommending the brothers' life sentence of life without the possibility of parole be removed, and they should instead be sentenced for murder, which is a sentence of 50 years to life. Because both brothers were under the age of 26 at the time of the crime, with the new sentence, they would be eligible for parole immediately, Gascon said. The DA's office said its resentencing recommendations take into account factors including the defendant's ages, psychological trauma or physical abuse that contributed to carrying out the crime, and their rehabilitation in prison. We appreciate what they did when they were in prison, Gascon said at a news conference. While I disapprove of the way they handled their abuse, we hope that not only they have learned, which it appears that they have, but if they get reintegrated into our community, they continue to do public good. Gascon's recommendation next goes in front of the Los Angeles Superior Court judge, who will weigh factors including the crime, the brothers' record while incarcerated, and the positive impact they've had in prison. ABC's news legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer said. The judge will also review facts that were not available at the time of the brothers' 1996 conviction. The judge might also consider, quote, the science of young boys and young men being SA'd, Buckmeyer said, how they respond, how they react to that abuse, and how that might not have been information that was readily available at the time of sentencing that could have changed the sentence. A hearing is set for December. If the judge agrees to the resentencing, the case next goes to the parole board. Even though the judge would have already evaluated the facts and factor, the parole board is now doing their own investigation. The brothers and their relatives will also get an opportunity to address the parole board. In this case, the relatives are not just the family of the perpetrator, but they are also the family of the victim, so they have their own rights based on both capacities. One relative, their uncle, Milton Anderson, wants to see the brothers stay behind bars, stating he doesn't believe that they were abused, but instead killed their parents out of greed. But nearly two dozen other family members are in support of the brothers and have been advocating for their release. So that will be an interesting thing to see play out if they have to get family members, you know, that have diverging ideas of what should be going on. There are survivors and they deserve a chance to rebuild their life, their cousin Brian Anderson Jr. told the reporters in October. They're no longer a threat to society. If they were to come to my house, knock on my door, I would answer the door and welcome them in with huge hugs. My wife would make them dinner and I'd give them a pillow and a place to sleep. A hearing before the parole board would at least take 6 months to schedule, according to the California Department of Corrections. If the parole board recommends release, the final decision then goes to the California governor, Gavin Newsom. If released on parole, the brothers would be subjected to monitorings and check-ins. Parole often comes with conditions like maintaining a job and avoiding drugs. Or path 3, clemency. On October 28th, the Menendez brothers' defense opened a third potential, track to freedom by submitting a request to the governor for clemency. The district attorney announced days later that he supports the brothers' bid for clemency, which would commute their sentence or grant a pardon. Newsom's first able to weigh in on the clemency application on November 7th. The governor's office says that this is a confidential process. Newsom is not required to review the application, and there is no timeline for review. If the governor approves clemency, the case will likely go before the parole board. The governor's office intends to treat this application like any other case, the official said at the office. Nobody is going to get special treatment. So there you go. I don't know if they're going to get special treatment. I don't know. I have not dug into this case enough. I have not actually looked at, the video to see what I feel. I tend to judge, the truth of certain things by what I see when they say it and how they tell their story. It's not scientifical, it's nothing like that, I'm not a body languageologist, but if you would like to see you guys, so the body language panel has done a, breakdown of Sarah on the stand. If you like to discuss things like blink rate and blink rate, uh, it is the perfect stream, but they didn't quite understand that on Cross, you have to ask simple yes or no questions. So they were so confused as to why the state attorney wasn't asking deep and detailed questions that they were like, "I don't understand why he's asking questions like that." And I was like, "I can't listen to people that don't understand trials." So I could not watch all of it, but they definitely did make one. And it was kind of interesting to hear them break down things and maybe make verbalize why it was that none of us bought Sarah's story other than she's a terrible, terrible liar. Well, it looks like Nicholas might be free from YSL. It's a Nicholas heavy morning, but we have Swedish candy on at the growing, and now YSL might be done. Young Thug YSL case ends in tatters with multiple plea changes and lead defendant gets off with time served. After an almost 11-month trial, nearly 10 months of jury selection, and some 7 months of pretrial wrangling, the perpetually disastrous racketeering prosecution against Jeffrey Young Thug Williams and over a dozen other co-defendants reached a whimpering end with a series of plea deals and changes. Williams is now a free man, and so many t-shirts and hashtags had requested and demanded, and in a way foretold. The longest trial in Peach State history largely flamed out on October 23rd when one of the state's witnesses revealed that one of the defendants was either still or had been behind bars because he was reading directly from an exhibit that the state failed to redact. The state, daggone it. In Georgia, jurors in criminal trials are not supposed to have such information. And as it turned out, this was the latest of numerous times the states had slipped in this fashion. Prosecutors allowed jurors to hear all about at least two defendants having been incarcerated. One defense attorney quickly raised an objection and called for a mistrial, then another, then there came a deluge of such requests from other defense teams. Quote, now the jury has repeatedly heard about Mr. Quamarvius Nichols being in jail, being in prison, and we cannot unring that bell, so we will ask for a mistrial, defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland said at one point. It's happening over and over again, Your Honor. We're not just going to be able to unring 100 bells. Right in the midst of the counter attempts, Fulton County Superior Court Judge Paige Whitaker expressed something not entirely unlike disdain for the effort put forth by the prosecution. Still, the judge said her motivation was to salvage the state's case for them. What I am trying to do is fix your sloppiness, Whitaker told the prosecutors, the tenor of her voice rising, so that everyone won't have everything wasted, or won't have wasted, 10, 12 months of their lives in this trial. Westmoreland pressed her advantage, arguing that the state had goaded the defendants into asking for a mistrial. In instances where the prosecution is intentionally responsible for a mistrial, double jeopardy attaches, and the defendants can't be retried. The judge disagreed, saying co-lead prosecutor Simone Hilton appeared to be appalled when the witness revealed the verboten information. The upshot was clear. The court would not consider a mistrial with prejudice, but was leaning toward a mistrial without prejudice. So that means that they are able to retry should they decide to. With prejudice means that a double jeopardy attaches. You never have to go through this again. If it's without prejudice, the state can decide to retry the case. Last week's proceedings ended with a call for a mistrial just shy of the 50th such ask, unanswered, and with details of plea deals being hashed out behind closed doors of the municipal offices. Each individual defense team began meeting with Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis and Chief Deputy District Attorney Adrian Love after the trial was cut short that Wednesday. Those meetings continued on until late the next morning and beyond. A previously expected resolution by the next afternoon did not pan out. Whitaker decided to call off the trial for the rest of the week as the discussions continued. The case shook out like this. Williams changed his plea to a combination of guilty and nolo contendere or no contest. Those former acquiescence to culpability or something like it came by way of a non negotiated plea deal because the defense and the prosecution could not come to an agreement about the terms of a prospective deal. In court on Thursday, prosecutors explained that the offered plea deal would have also allowed Williams to leave a free man, punished with time served and 15 years of probation. The deal also, however, would have hung a Damocles sword of 23 years in prison above his head for violating the terms of a potential probation. Defense attorney Brian Steele confirmed that the deal was rejected because the state asked for probationary terms the defense considered too onerous. After those days of negotiations ended in a stalemate, the prosecution reinstated their case against Williams and the alleged YSL organization at length. To that end, the state requested a sentence of 45 years, asking the judge to keep Williams behind bars for 25 years and on probation for 20 years after that. The defense, in rebuttal, accused prosecutors of lying, misleading, and otherwise making things up. Steele also referred to his client's musical prowess and the esteem in which Williams is held in the recording industry. At one point, the defense attorney quoted his client's one-time musical collaborator, Elton John, saying that Williams was akin to the second coming of John Lennon. Okay. Nah. Eh. In the end, Williams was sentenced to 20 years, with 5 years to be served behind bars. Those 5 years, however, were commuted to time served, followed by 15 years of probation. After that, the judge imposed a so-called backloaded sentence of 20 years that Williams could and would serve in custody, but if and only if he defaulted on the conditions of his probation. One of the special conditions of release, however, is likely to the now former defendant, or Sting. Williams is not allowed to be in the metro Atlanta area for the next 10 years, barring certain enumerated circumstances. Some plea deals were cut to other defendants earlier this week. In one case, however, all overtures to a quick resolution were rejected. Yak Gotti has rejected the state's latest plea offer and fully intends to take this to a jury to get a not guilty verdict and go home. Douglas Weinstein, attorney for DeMonte Kendricks, said earlier on Thursday in a statement. Here's how we got to this point. On May 9th, 2022, Williams was arrested on the strength of a sprawling 86-page indictment. That charging document has since been revised several times over. In a marquee-worthy production by the DA's office, the Young Slime Life crew was dubbed a criminal organization or gang, and Williams himself was bestowed with the inauspicious honorific of King Slime. At the height of the law enforcement dragnet, the district attorney claimed some 28 co-defendants. Procedural error, plea deals, and weeding out thinned these numbers substantially. On the first day of jury selection on January 3rd, 2023, there were 21 co-defendants. 9 co-defendants would go on to take plea deals, and another 12 co-defendants had their cases severed from the overarching trial for various reasons. Since the procedural shuffling, Williams and 5 others were left to face trial. In total, 18 members of the purported YSL gang, which defendants maintain was not an actual gang in a criminal sense, faced criminal charges. Underscoring the level of drama in the long-running and ultimately aborted case is the fact that the judge in charge of the matter was replaced twice. In mid-July, Fulton County Superior Court Judge Rachel Krause decided recusal motions in favor of Williams and another defendant. She found that preserving the public's confidence in the judicial system necessitated the removal of the long alleged to be biased Fulton County Superior Court Chief Judge Earl D. Glanville, who had been in charge of the case since it came to court, waged an all-out fight to stay, and that battle was his undoing. The publicity trying to dispute the charges level at him in the recusal motion. The judge repeatedly violated longstanding judicial rules established by higher Peach State courts. The state was then reassigned to Fulton County Superior Court Judge Shakura Ingram, who has been a judge since 2015. 2 days later, on July 17th, Ingram took herself off the job out of an abundance of caution because one of her deputies was arrested for allegedly conspiring with one of the original defendants in the case. Having Whitaker take the case was the last of several attempts by Fulton County criminal justice system to keep the prosecution afloat. She denied various mistrial requests along the way, at one point even accusing the state of exceedingly poor lawyering. In the end, the final judge lasted little less than 3.5 months. Good night. So there you go. YSL flamed out in a glorious dumpster fire that we probably all suspected it was going to be when we saw the level and caliber of the gang experts. Like one guy was like, I drove through Chicago and I watched 8 Mile once. I know things. In a lighter story, apparently, and I did not know this, but this, makes me really want like a really intricately made, piece of bread now. A Bolivian artist carves the faces of departed onto Day of the Dead bread. I mean, it looks more like clay to me, but maybe they get a bread piece somewhere. During the Day of the Dead celebrations that take place late in October and early November, Latin Americans honor their dearly departed loved ones by setting up altars adorned with food, flowers, and photograph. But what about a carving of the actual face of your deceased spouse or family member on a plaster to decorate a piece of bread? What? That's exactly what one artist in Bolivia is doing. As part of a centuries old tradition to honor their dead on November 12th, Bolivians share a sweet bread called tantawa, tantawawa, amara for baby bread, in a symbolic way to connect the living with the dead. Traditionally, this bread is decorated with generic plastered faces, but Bolivian artist William Luna thought it would be even more symbolic if he could carve out a feature that represented loved ones of people that they're remembering. Inspired by the loss of his mother, Luna began sculpting her face into a uh, piece of this bread for the first anniversary of her death in 2017. He then introduced this idea to local markets and now receives requests from families eager to honor their loved ones in this unique way. Families ask for masks to resemble their deceased loved ones as closely as possible, Luna explained. I focus on each person's distinctive figures and features, as we all have something special that sets us apart. Luna then meticulously crafts each mask, starting with a photo of the departed individual. He then uses clay and his fingers and modeling tool to capture the person's likeness. Once satisfied with that clay model, he creates a plastic mold and fills it with plaster. The final step involves painting the mask, sometimes with the help of the family. This entire process can take about a week. Milton Esquire, a anthropologist from the National Museum of Ethnography and Folklore in La Paz, says that there's not an exact record of the origin of the Tanawawa, only that it is pre-Hispanic. Originally or historically, the bread was made with quinoa flour, but now common wheat is used. Our tradition holds that the soul returns hungry and thirsty, and that's why families have food waiting for them. Luna, the artist, said his idea is to give people a way to see their deceased loved ones again, even if it's only in this way, he said, gazing at some of the plastered faces. I ended up having to get a sweater on. I am glad that I got a bunch of sweaters, from my favorite place, fun.com. If you like this particular, you know, Lord of the Rings one, I love it. I will say, I know I say this every time about fun.com, but these sweaters are really good quality and you don't have to get them, huge enormous like I do. Although, in a very small personal, small personal victory, I had to get some of them in, normal my sizes, and they fit perfectly. So they do run, I think they're maybe male sizing. Now, what I will tell you, if you cannot seem to get warm, I thought it was, I thought these were gonna be a gimmick, but they have battery pack operated, heated socks, and I am not gonna lie, I broke those out this morning. I really can't stand to have my feet cold anymore because one of them always feels like it has frostbite anyway. So, I will say they are great. They're about $30 on Amazon. And now I am going to leave you guys until the roast later on this afternoon, to go make sure that my children, actually brush their teeth and get out of their Halloween costumes before we go to the dentist, and I lie to them about flossing, because I do tell them to floss, and I have attempted to show them to floss, but I am not going to, bear hug my most feral one to floss his teeth every day. I save that for every other day. I love the cooling blanket too. I I had to get one. I experienced my first hot flash. Everyone survived, sort of. Mr. Mo sort of survived because I was y'all, this is what I look like. I am over here on the couch, just like doing the labor Lamaze breathe through what I could only imagine was an out of body experience, but I learned was a hot flash. My body had internally come up to, I think, 3,000 Kelvin, but and I was sweating and I looked pale and, I'm over here like, "I'm so hot, but my hands and feet are cold. What the hell is going on here?" And Mr. Mo, in his infinite wisdom, decided to say, "Gosh, you don't look very well. Are these hot flashes? And oh my god, you're not even menopausal yet. This is gonna suck for you." To which I told him, and I quote, "God is protecting you by rendering me weak right now, but one day you will go to a colonoscopy and I will film it." I was like, "This is a no-go. This is not gonna happen." 'Cause, like, yeah, he all he could say was, "That looks like it sucks. I'm glad I'm not a woman." And I'm like, "I am glad that God has rendered me unable to stand up right now because I will catch a case." And, yeah, so I asked my mom, and she's like, "You just kinda have to, you just have to kinda live with this." I was like, no, thank you. I need some help. How do I stop this? Do I just attach a fan? Like, am I allowed to strip in public? Like, what is going on here? What am I allowed to do? Do I get to throw things at people when they're being annoying? Like, what do I get as an offset for these terrible, terrible hot flashes?" And she's like, "Eh, you get to tell people kinda what you think." And I was like, this doesn't." Oh, yeah, yeah, Dennis Heaton brings out a really good point. Husbandmen, if you're in here, males, I know that the little monitor tells you when we're having a contraction. We women can also tell. You don't have to tell us like, "Oh my god, it's a big one. Do you see how big that peak is? Wow, that must really hurt." Mr. Mo did that once, and I was like, he's like, "Wow, can you feel that?" And I was like, "No, no, I fucking can't feel it. You're a genius. How about it's stuck to my goddamn uterus?" I think is exactly what I said. Uh, and I'm pushing out your giant-headed child. I just know he has a giant head. Would you shut the hell up? Sit the hell down. I know when I'm having a damn contraction. Thank you, Einstein, I believe was my entire speech. And yes, I remember it. Our love language is somewhat unique. The nurse was laughing her ass off, so at least I killed while I was having a contraction. But just gentlemen, for your safety, a generalized, you know, note is that yes, we women can ascertain when our body is trying to squeeze out a live human child that, doesn't want to be evicted. We can, in fact, feel those. We don't need the little monitor. You're welcome. I hope this saves many husbands and male people. On that note, I am going to make sure because youngest son was looking at a midnight black popsicle, so now his teeth are black, so I have to go scrub those off. I will have to look at that, because that was no bueno. No bueno, no. The other day, my youngest said after looking at his older brother's birth announcement, "What a big-headed baby." Yes. And I hope you have a wonderful first day of November, everyone. And if this is also a public service reminder, if you, like me, maybe have a Savage Venti X, account or a Halara account, or any one of those accounts that you have to, cancel by the 5th of the month so you don't get charged for a new outfit, make sure to go ahead and take care of that today so you don't get a $50 charge in leggings you can't wear. I speak from personal experience, but my girls enjoy that they can send them back and get their own, pair of leggings. By you got Oh, hell no. The largest I had was a 10-pound baby with a giant ass head, and I was done. Well, no, I wasn't. We had a 6th, but I was really done. But you guys, God decided that the youngest, most feral must come down to earth, and I was chosen.